Big day at the U.S. Capitol for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker as he's set to testify in front of a U.S. House committee about the state of Illinois' migrant sanctuary policies. While Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson holding a lengthy news conference yesterday, having to react to Trump's apparent increase in mass deportations. Just a couple of the things we're going to be tackling here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Go to thecentersquare.com where you can find the latest headlines out of Illinois. But you can also sign up for the newsletter where it's free. Just give your email address and you'll be able to get some headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Not just from Illinois, you can also find those headlines from the national segment or other states. Plus, you can get this podcast where you get podcasts. Not everybody can watch in the mornings. Sometimes people want to listen while they drive. You can get the podcast, just search Illinois in Focus, and you'll be able to find it there. All right, so it's going to be a big day today. Obviously, the governor is going to start testifying in front of the U.S. House committee about 9 o'clock our time, I believe. So that's coming up in less than an hour. It'll be streamed on the U.S. House Oversight Committee's YouTube page. So if you want to watch that live unfiltered, you can go check that out. But obviously, we're going to be monitoring it and putting together stuff for you to review tomorrow morning. So we'll definitely have that ready. But for today, we've got the mayor talking about the issue. Plus, we'll also hear a little bit more about the possible $1.50 tax per retail delivery that some legislators are still pushing for. So that's coming up here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here for Illinois in Focus Daily.
Either support the Constitution or you do not. And right now, this president is literally just trampling all over the Constitution right now and doing it in plain sight. And so we're going to do everything in our power. Beatrice Ponce de Leon, Deputy Mayor, we're going to make sure that people know their rights.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson there talking about the Trump administration and as he sees the enforcement of federal immigration law being a violation of the Constitution, or at least how Johnson sees it playing out under the Trump administration. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Today's going to be a big day with President Donald Trump's efforts continuing to do mass deportations, but you've also got the governor of Illinois set to go into a House committee, the Oversight Committee, to testify to the state's migrant policies. Let's take a look really quick here on X at the Oversight Committee's X page. And again, we'll review a lot of this tomorrow here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, if I didn't tell you that. But here we've got a video that the House Oversight Committee has put out saying they're ready to have these governors testify. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, Tim Walz, governor from Minnesota, also former Democratic vice presidential candidate for Kamala Harris, and Governor J.B. Pritzker here from Illinois. Let's just hear a little bit of what this produced video from the House Oversight Committee has.
$1 million since 2023 on migrants.
Is Chicago a sanctuary city?
A 40-year policy.
of being a welcoming city.
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's the
All
last
right, that's
4
why
years,
you're a failing
which
mayor.
is you're providing an enormous amount of aid to illegal aliens, aiding and abetting criminals who have come into our country illegally.
Why are you letting rapists back out on the streets of Boston?
That is not true. That is not what's happening in Boston.
So you guys just snagged a previously deported, convicted child rapist. Is that unusual out here?
Not in Massachusetts. It's not unusual.
Look, I'm going to do everything that I can to protect our undocumented immigrants. They're residents of our state.
We say you are welcome here. You're welcome with open arms, and we'll work to keep you safe.
As long as I am governor of Minnesota, we will welcome immigrants with gratitude for their contributions to our communities.
This young man was killed by an illegal immigrant in Texas that never should have been in our country.
Lincoln Riley, Ruby Garcia, Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Nungaray, the woman set on fire in New York subway, and other crimes that would not have taken the lives of these people.
So that's, again, a highly produced video the U.S. House Oversight Committee put out on their X page. I imagine they're probably going to air that as well during the committee. But then you're going to have Governor Pritzker get up there and talk about the state's migrant sanctuary policies. We heard a little bit late last week as to what some of what he might talk about, and in particular saying that, you know, the state has its Trust Act and its Way Forward Act preventing state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration officials because of what the governor is likely going to lean into heavy, the lack of immigration reform. Comprehensive immigration reform. It's the terminology we use and we hear Democrats use all the time. In an effort to try to relax immigration laws or make it easier for people to come into the country. I mean, this was a line that the Democrats used all throughout the Biden administration, while apparently the border was wide open, letting millions of people cross, not through ports of entry, but cross the border. The argument was, well, we've got so much immigration issues because we need comprehensive immigration reform. And one of the first things that President Donald Trump said when he addressed members of Congress after getting in for a second non-consecutive term, largely based, what pundits believe, on the president's efforts to try to curb illegal immigration and do mass deportations. But the president said it didn't take a change of the law, it just took a new president to secure the border. But now we've got, millions of individuals in this country who came across the border, not through a port of entry, but illegally. And it's a pretty heavy focus right now. You have Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, having to field questions yesterday about, the process of which the Trump administration is going about doing deportations in places like Los Angeles, and where that's going to be next, and how they're combating any kind of civil unrest people may have on the streets.
Government is to preserve law and order, and this administration embraces that sacred responsibility. Democrats like Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass shamefully failed to meet their sworn obligations to their citizens. They didn't have the courage to do the right thing and protect law-abiding Californians from rioters. That's why President Trump deployed the National Guard and mobilized Marines to end the chaos and restore law and order. The mob violence is being stomped out. The criminals responsible will be swiftly brought to justice, and the Trump administration's operations to arrest illegal aliens are continuing unabated. When the initial...
So what are we going to see happen elsewhere? That's in California, right? And you've got the lawsuit that Gavin Newsom filed against the Trump administration, saying that him commandeering the National Guard to protect federal buildings when there's people throwing Molotov cocktails and broken pieces of sidewalk at law enforcement. He says that's unconstitutional and illegal and a dictatorship and tyranny and such. So Gavin Newsom's lawsuit, a preliminary action was not allowed, but the lawsuit still continues. But where else is this going to happen? Yesterday, the city of Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and his various officials, they held a news conference yesterday, and his chief of staff talked about how they're expecting fully that ICE is going to be doing some raids in Chicago.
Just as I mentioned before, yesterday the notice was given to agents that they have 48 hours to deploy, that there will be 5 cities that are targeted, Democrat-led cities, Chicago being one of them for sure. And that they were going to be targeting, workplaces in terms of the raids with the mini tanks, with arms, with also chemical agents.
And you got to think to yourself, law enforcement sees what's happened in California with federal agents being approached and attacked by, are they protesters or what are they? How do you characterize them? Being approached with civil unrest, I guess is one way you could put it. But Christina Passione-Zayas, the chief of staff for Brandon Johnson, said that they are seeing and hearing about deceptive practices that the federal government's using to nab people here illegally.
Last week, there were deceptive practices where they text people who were expecting to go into a place to do the check-in with their immigration proceedings, and of course they were intercepted by ICE. So we can expect all of those types of tactics, inclusive of evading due process, deceptive tactics, and concealing identity, along with some of those more aggressive actions that we witnessed in LA.
And then just thinking about...
Again, this is from a news conference yesterday in different angles and asked questions and such. The mayor, Brandon Johnson, who himself testified, you saw clips of it during that House Oversight video that we aired a little bit of, but he reacted to the idea that ICE is going to be performing some raids in Chicago.
You know, as far as any particular action that the city or the state or the county, or what we would do particularly as a city, This is a necessary fight for all of us to be able to push back. Whether we use the courts or whether we continue to protest and raise our voices, dissent matters in this moment. Now look, he is abusing his power. I am counting on all of Chicago to resist in this moment, because whatever particular vulnerable group is being targeted today, another group will be next.
So he's actively telling people to resist. What does that look like? Is that going to be people wearing masks, coming up to Chicago police, trying to be a barrier to keep the peace from federal officials that are trying to conduct federal immigration enforcement? And are those protesters, or some are in the chat room live saying that they're militants or anarchists, or even President Donald Trump is saying that this is a paid opposition of sorts, and we're going to see even more of this expected this weekend across the country. How the president's going to react to it, it'll be interesting. But, in Illinois, we're going to hear a lot about this from Governor J.B. Pritzker when he testifies in front of the U.S. House Committee a little bit later on, less than an hour away it's going to start. But Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says, hey, we've got a welcoming city ordinance. The state laws are in place to help the immigrant communities.
We are a welcoming city, and that ordinance is the law of the land, the Illinois Trust Act. It's the law of the land, which simply states that our local law enforcement will not coordinate or engage or behave as federal agents. Now, if there's a federal warrant that is available, then that provides space for a different type of assessment. As far as the role and the responsibility of our police department, it is to ensure that protesters can live out the Constitution safely. That is their responsibility. They also have a responsibility to ensure that, in the event there are actions that are moving, that it is effectively coordinated, right? Because we don't want anyone to get injured. And so there's a certain element, I don't know what this person's definition of crowd control is, but I can tell you as mayor of the city of Chicago, I want to make sure that whether that crowd is 5 or 5,000 or 50,000, that they're protected. That is the role and the responsibility of our police department.
But again, the mayor also encouraging everyone in Chicago, he said, to resist. Resist who? The ICE? Resist Chicago police? Resist the Cook County Sheriff's Department? What does that mean to resist? Is it just standing on the street corner with a sign, or is it actually doing direct action against what they see as an injustice, or as Johnson essentially said, Trump's a terrorist?
Look, I remember a few stand-ups ago when I talked about what terrorism looks like. This is it. There should be no question to what our country will look like had the Confederacy won. We're seeing it on full display. And there's no art form in this. This is literally just using the power of the federal apparatus to insert its will on whomever. Right now in our country, there's no check and balance. It doesn't exist right now. Speaker Johnson, who is third in charge if something were to happen to the President of the United States of America, won't even raise his voice. As a believer in faith and justice, these individuals are cowards. They are hypocrites. They're dangerous. There's one branch of government right now in this country, one branch. He has taken over the courts. The Congress says nothing. And so people are terrified. But in the city of Chicago, we are going to remain vigilant and firm in protecting what is sensible about our existence. And that's ensuring that the Constitution is actually maintained. Here's the bottom line is this. You either support the Constitution or you do not. And right now, this president is literally just trampling all over the Constitution right now and doing it in plain sight.
So again, Mayor Johnson, critical of the Trump administration, saying that there's only one branch of government. I guess he could have said that it's a uniparty in Washington, D.C. right now. That's the election, how it came out. Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the executive branch with Donald Trump in the office of president. And also what most believe, a conservative Supreme Court panel of majority conservative justices there. But, looking internally, Illinois, we're essentially a uniparty. Democrats control every statewide constitutional officer from governor to treasurer. They have supermajorities in the House and the Senate. Chicago hasn't had a Republican mayor for decades. So I guess it's good for some, but not for the other. It's always important to put the shoe on the other foot. But that wasn't the only conversation happening yesterday. Of course, the immigration conversation is going to be dominating for weeks ahead, if not for the rest of the Trump administration. But over in Washington, D.C., a couple of Illinois Congress people joined with others for the 13th anniversary of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. Illinois U.S. Representative Delia Ramirez taking to a microphone outside the Capitol yesterday, sharing her immigrant story.
I'm going to be honest with you. The most important thing you need to know is that I am the proud daughter of Guatemalan immigrants, that I'm a citizen by birthright, and I'm the wife of an incredible man who until recently was a DACA recipient, a dreamer. And I'm the congresista of a welcoming state that this fascist government attacks, but we will not allow to walk us back our love and our commitment to our immigrant communities. I want to start by acknowledging how difficult these last few months have been. They haven't just been difficult, they have been painful. Some of you are having to make safety plans for your community, for your family, for your immediate family. Some of you are asking, what happens if mom or dad is taken? ¿Quién va a pagar la renta? Who's going to take care of the mortgage? Who's going to go pick up the 7th grader or the kindergartner if, in fact, I'm not able to pick them up because I got abducted by ICE?
She continues on with some of her comments yesterday.
But you do need our solidarity. We need each member of this body to move the needle to real comprehensive immigration reform that reflects the values we claim as a nation. And so I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it unapologetically. We don't need bans, we don't need walls, we don't need raids, we don't need kidnappings.
So you've got, again, that term, comprehensive immigration reform, while President Donald Trump's going through to try to enforce current immigration law and doing deportations, or at least starting that for a whole host of individuals over in California. As we heard, it's probably going to start soon in Chicago. You've got mass protests expected this weekend. Strap in. It's going to be an interesting...
but we will not...
Interesting couple of days here. Of course, later on today, in less than an hour, as we go live here, you've got Governor J.B. Pritzker testifying in front of a U.S. House committee about the state's migrant sanctuary policies. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be with us tomorrow, and we'll review that next. Supporters of mass transit reform in the state of Illinois and a tax increase to pay for it are continuing their push despite their measure not making it across the finish line before the end of legislative session. Welcome back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. As we look at all the measures that passed the State House before the May 31st deadline, we've got a whole slew of them all lined up for the governor to sign. One of them being, obviously, the budget. Senate Bill 2510 is on the governor's desk, and that is the appropriations bill that includes tax increases on tobacco, tax increases on sports betting, all kinds of different changes to corporate income taxes. That's going to mean more collections for the state, about $1 billion worth of increased taxes and collections for the state to spend a $55.2 billion budget, the most expensive spending plan in state history. So that's on the governor's desk, as is House Bill 850, which supporters say is going to give the FOID card holders in this state more due process if they get revoked or suspended. Others say it's not really due process if you have an administrative hearing without the individual facing charges having their rights taken away. So we'll see how those go, but those are on the governor's desk. What's not going to be on the governor's desk anytime soon is the transit consolidation and what some are calling the pizza tax, the $1.50 for each individual retail delivery. And last night, you had a couple of state senators hold a town hall of sorts, or an informational, virtual informational session about the proposed transit bailout, people are calling. You have State Senator Sarah Feigenholtz and State Senator Ram Vilivalam. They talked about the, quote, investments that they're hoping to make into mass transit. Again, this comes from $1.50 per retail delivery. Doesn't matter if it's a $3,000 TV or a $10 pizza. Each would have $1.50 on it. And people are saying that's a regressive tax. But it would also have a tax on electric vehicle charging facilitators. So you're getting all this money. It's $1.5 billion when the fiscal cliff for Chicago Transit is like, $770 million. Here's Sarah Feigenholtz and Ram Vilivalam last night talking about this. Dan, let's roll the tape.
The funding, this legislation represents the most unprecedented amount of funding from the state level that public transit has seen, again, since its inception four decades ago. It's a $1.5 billion investment in our public transit system. And I'm so grateful for Sarah's support because there was many that said, let's just give them the bare minimum. Let's fill the hole for next year. Let's not tackle the bigger issues, right? And another thing that we've heard, or another piece that we heard from all of our constituents is we want a system not just for tomorrow, but for the next 3 decades, right? For the next several decades. And this transformational investment of $1.5 billion, what does that mean? That means more frequency. That means bus rapid transit. That means creating new service. And for example, the suburbs. Right now, CTA serves 35 suburbs. They have the charge to serve all of suburban Cook County, right? They just haven't gotten there yet. And so this type of transformational investment can lead to new opportunities. Why is that important? Well, the last piece I'll say, and we can go to more of a discussion, is we have to acknowledge that our travel patterns are changing. That's what we've learned through this process. It used to be that you would come downtown from the suburbs and go back out. it's changed. People want to do more neighborhood to neighborhood transit. People want to do more suburb to suburb transit and Collar County to Collar County transit, right? If I want to visit my mom in Naperville and then go to Chicago Botanical Garden, we should be able to do that, right? And right now,
and
it's
a lot
really
of
hard
the conversation's been around consolidation, trying to get all of the different transit agencies on the same page, trying to make it to where you buy one ticket and then you don't have to do transfers to another facility or anything like that. So, I mean, there's some noble efforts there for sure, but how do you pay for it? And where's all this money? Why is this money needed? Sarah Feigenholtz saying that the $750 million fiscal cliff is because of COVID-19 relief dollars from 2020 and 2021?
Federal COVID support funds are running out at the end of this calendar year. 5. Ridership has not returned to pre-COVID levels, which reduces the amount of money we bring in at the fare box. And we're not cutting RTA's budget.
So you've got the call for these dollars. They didn't get it during spring session. Now you've got questions of what kind of service cuts are there going to be? Are they going to increase rates to have those who actually use it pay for it rather than people who live in Southern Illinois paying $1.50 per pizza delivery to pay for mass transit in the Chicago suburbs? Earlier this week, Republicans held a news conference, like an end of session wrap up, and you had the conversation amongst State Senator Sally Turner, State Representatives Regan Deering and Bill Howder, talking about the $1.50 tax on retail delivery. And again, this did not pass.
The other part that was going to affect all of us was $1.50 on each delivery that you got at your home from Amazon, from the delivery guy at Walgreens, from the Target delivery. All of those things, we're going to have a service tax of $1.50 on every package that was going to be dropped at our door. That should have sent alarm bells up to everyone to pay attention to that. Because if you're the mom that's running late, getting home from work, and you forgot to get your kids diapers, and you have that delivered, that's another $1.50 for you that you have to pay in tax.
It's gonna happen? Is it not gonna happen? When are we gonna see this thing come back up? The spring legislative session is over. That finished up June 1st at 2:30 in the morning. The House and Senate did schedule their fall veto session, so that's gonna be 2 weeks in October. So we'll have some legislative activity in October. Could they bring this up again? Likely. Will it be modified a bit? Possibly. We'll be watching that closely. Or could they come back for a special session this summer? I guess that depends on what happens with the so-called big, beautiful bill over in Washington, D.C. A lot of stuff for us to continue to monitor, and I hope it's informative for you waking up each and every morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Get the newsletter at thecentersquare.com. Get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus, and wake up with us right here on YouTube. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. I got to get geared up here, ready to cover Governor J.B. Pritzker testifying in front of the U.S. House Oversight Committee. You can watch alongside everybody else. Go to the U.S. House Oversight Committee's YouTube page, and you'll see that launch. It'll be interesting. We'll be reviewing and recapping all of it here tomorrow with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you so much for being part of it each and every weekday morning. Live chat's always lively. Be sure to take part in that. Share this up with your friends. Let them know where they can find some solid daily news about what's going on in Illinois. But also tell them about the website, thecentersquare.com. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.